people are always asking me about my fur poms. I make my own, and there are tons of videos on YouTube, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on how to make them, but I did want to share some information. Not all faux fur is created equal. What do I mean by that? Okay, so some of the fur I actually bought at Walmart, okay? And it's usually, it can run anywhere from 20 something dollars a yard to 45 or 50. I mean, it can get really expensive. So there's a fur called Luxe, L-U-X-E, that Joann's carries, and it's really, really plush and super expensive. This fur makes really, really good pom-poms, as you can see. I don't even have to make them very big because they're really fuzzy. So if the fur is really long and plush, you don't have to make the pom as big, okay? So this is from Walmart, and I think it was $20, 22 maybe. So I got quite a bit of it because I use this brown a lot. The more expensive it is, the less I buy of it. Then I bought this white fur at Walmart, and you can see it's really plush and really pretty. You can also tell by the thickness of the back, and I know this is almost impossible to tell on camera. The thicker it is, usually the fluffier and fuzzier it is. So I got a whole bunch of this because it was really cheap at Walmart as well. Okay, so then I went in search of this black, and I bought some at, oh, I don't remember, I think Joann's or something, and I didn't like it. It was real flat. So I went to a mill outlet, and a mill outlet is a place where they have all kinds of different fabrics for everything from upholstery to quilting, and they had a little bit better quality fur. Then after I bought this, I found the Luxe fur at Joann's, but since I already bought this, I didn't want to go buy any more. So this is a pretty decent fur, and I think, once again, I think this was about, I don't know, $20 or $30. This is a quarter of a yard. You can get a lot of poms out of a quarter of a yard. Let me show you something that'll show up on here. So this is, you can kind of tell the difference here. This came from the mill outlet, which is just a mom and pop fabric store here. It's nice and fuzzy compared to this other one that I had bought. And I think I got this at Joann's. Some of the fur at Joann's is okay, some is not. Okay, now look how gnarly this is. This end of this piece is actually much nicer than this piece, and this fur on this end is not really usable because it's all icky. It's hard to tell on camera, but it looks better on this end. This is a lot thinner fabric, and I don't know if you can tell, but this is much better quality than this. And you can even see on here, see the difference in the thickness. This is really nice quality. This is really awful quality. So I probably won't ever end up using any of that. Here it is in yellow. I was looking for red, and of course red is the only color I couldn't find. So I got the yellow. So this is a quarter of a yard. This will show up really well. So this stuff is 60 inches long, which is 5 feet, which is as tall as me. You don't really need more than a quarter of a yard because you're not going to cut your poms any bigger than that. Okay, so for me, this is just a regular Corel, you know, your smaller plate, and I just turn it over. So see here? So even if you wanted a gigantic pom, so for instance, this one, okay, this pom is made from this size plate, this size pom, okay? This plate, which is much bigger, and I don't think you'd ever cut a pom bigger than this, is this size of this black one. For a little bit bigger pom, I use this plate, and I thought I would measure it for you. It's about 6 3/4. This plate I use for a lot of my poms, and that is 6 inches. So probably the one I cut would be a large pom. My one that you saw for the white hat would be more this size. So 6-inch circle probably makes around a 3-inch pom, and a 6 3/4 inch circle probably makes, I don't know, 3.5 to 4 inch wide pom. So I hope that helps. And then I just buy this polyfill at Walmart, which is, I don't know, a couple of dollars, $4 or $5 for this whole big bag. So if you were to use the smaller size plate, you could get at least 7 Pom Poms out of this 1/4 of a yard. So let's say the fur was $30 a yard divided by 4, because you only have a 1/4 of a yard, is $7.50 divided by, you could get 7 Pom Poms out of that. They cost you about $1 a piece. You can't do much better than that. If you go to Joann's, I know when I was at Joann's, I don't know, maybe a month ago, maybe even just 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had the Luxe fur on sale for 40 or 50% off, which is huge. So I would never ever pay full price for any of this fur because it's always on sale. If you can get your fur on sale for $20 a yard and you get 1/4 of a yard, then if you got 7 Pom Poms out of it, they would cost you about 71 cents a piece. So that's a really good deal. I know they have them cheap on Amazon, but you have to watch because some of them are made out of some kind of animal fur that they call a raccoon dog. And I looked into this because some lady had commented about that on a page, and they raise these raccoon dogs, which I'm not sure if it's a domestic animal or what it is, and they make fur poms. So be really careful if you're getting poms from China because you don't always know what you're getting, which is why I like to make my own. So all I do, I'll show you on the yellow because it's easy to see. I use my quilting mat. This is a quilter's mat, and these are messy, so be careful where you do this. I would do this on some type of paper or surface where you can discard all of the fur because this fur is messy. I'm going to put it right on the edge, and then all I do is draw a circle around the edge, okay, like that. Now I have my circle. Now, the trick is when you cut this fur. Okay, when you cut this fur, you don't want to cut it like this, like you're just cutting fabric and cut around. You want to cut, if this makes any sense, underneath. You want to cut just the fabric, okay? Let me see if I can zoom this in. And as little as the fur, so you're kind of, I don't know if I could explain it, cutting under the fur, if that makes sense. This is going to make a lot less of a mess. Okay, so I'm just getting the fabric under my scissors. Okay, just getting where all I feel underneath my scissors is the fabric and not a whole bunch of the fur. Okay. So you want to go around and do that. It's really hard to do this on camera. So in other words, to show you the back side, if I showed you where my scissors are going, you can't see where my scissors are coming out because they're not like this, okay? And you'll know what I mean when you cut the fur. So see how I cut the edge, but the fur is still here? If I was cutting like this, I would have cut off all of that fur. So you just want to cut the fabric portion of the fur, and you'll be able to feel it with your scissors. So, all right, I finished cutting this out, and you can see I did it with minimal mess. You don't see a whole bunch of fur on here, and that's because I didn't cut into the fur. I cut underneath the fur, okay? And see, I still have all this nice furry edge left. So what I do, so I just get a package, and you can get a whole package of this. I believe I got it at Michael's because that's loops and threads. And there were 36 different colors in here, and you can usually find the color that you need that will match your pom-pom or your yarn. So this yellow matches perfectly. I use a tapestry needle. So if you go to the sewing section of the store, they have packages of tapestry needles. It has this really nice large eye, and it has a relatively blunt tip. It's not super sharp, but it usually goes through this fur fabric just fine. So all you're going to do here is I'm going to start as close to the edge as I can without being too close. And I'm just going to start my stitch like that. And when I start my stitch, I will leave a bit of a tail so I can draw it up. Okay, then I'm going to make a big stitch here and just a smaller one where I come through, and just for demonstration purposes. And sometimes it's a little hard. Okay, so basically you're going to make a stitch like that. It doesn't have to be perfect all the way around. Once you get all the way around with your thread, or you can see where I've sewn the edges, I've just pulled it up a little bit. All you're going to do is draw these two together. Okay, tighten these is all you're doing. This is going to be a really furry pom. This might even be too big because the fur is a little different. So you'll have to adjust them depending on how the fur looks. So you draw it together a little bit, put a little bit of the stuffing, and you know, if you have old pillows that you're not using and you want to pull the stuffing out of those, you could do that as well. And you just pull each of these strings as tight as you possibly can. It's helpful if you have one person to hold this together and then one person to pull. Okay, so you're going to pull it as tight as you can. Sometimes you can't always get it closed. And then I just start to tie it. I'll try to get it tighter than that. But once you get it as tight as you think you can, then you're going to take your thread and you're going to sew from side to side so that you basically sew up this hole. Okay? Then you have your pom-pom. And if you don't have enough thread to sew your pom-pom onto your hat, no worries. You can always put another piece of thread through there. You want to make sure you have enough thread, and if you don't, you can attach another one to sew it onto your hat. And there are videos on this as well. When you sew your pom onto your hat, you do not want to go through the middle, okay? Because this is basically just a hole. That won't hold it. You want to go like over here on this side and over here on this side, okay? So then that will attach the pom really well. I'm not going to put this pom on this hat. I'm just using it because it's one of the few hats that doesn't have a pom on it. So anyway, you want to make sure that, you know, your thread is over here on this side and this thread is on this side. And once it's inside the hat, I tie it and then I start going up and then through the pom and back down through the hat and up and through the pom and back down through the hat, because you want to make sure that your pom is really secure and it's not just sitting in the middle of your hat. Okay, so this is one on the outside, and then I just make sure that I secure these threads really well once the pom is on the hat.